For more information about criminal defense in New Jersey, go to hornerlaw.com. That's HOERNER law.com.
Yeah, it's been really great. I love meeting people. So
Sure, and I would imagine if you have a client that is a large employer, in other words, employing a large number of employees, either repeat clients for you.
yes.
I'm curious about something because one thing when a client comes to me
Hmm.
and they want to discuss this topic of expungements,
Mm.
I always caution them that, hey, yeah, what does an expungement mean? Well, if you get a matter expunged, it is as if it never existed. We always check to make sure that, once an expungement is complete, that it has been actually removed by the various authorities so that
Hmm.
it doesn't pop up. But I always caution them, if you're asked by an employer, have you ever been, arrested, convicted, or has anything ever been expunged? Which
Is that
many
legal
many
though? Can you?
federal employers will ask that specific question.
Oh, federal. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I could see that.
if you're going to apply to the FBI, they're probably you're going to be in more trouble if you say no and they
Yeah.
find out that you had something expunged. So that issue of expungement, does that ever come up for you? Do you ever have
It,
somebody come to you and say, "Well, wait a minute, I got that expunged"?
yeah, that has happened, and
That's concerning, I guess.
it really is. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing is, I understand the person's point of view. Hey, you're the background check company. Why are you reporting this? And what we tell them, we're taking records from the courthouse, and that's all we're doing. So obviously, the problem was the
The
mistake
clerk didn't
occurred.
clerk
Yeah,
throw it
something
out. Yeah.
happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we obviously share the information. And then we actually, I mean, there's a number of steps we legally have to do whenever someone inquires about their background check, but we will reach out to the court researcher. We'll get all the information on the case. We'll tell them exactly where to go, where to contact, who to contact. So I agree. And you know, that's something that um, I think a person should probably look at or at least think about before they're going on a job interview.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a situation. Maybe I should check that out.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Have you
Sure.
ever had just a private citizen, approach your firm and, ask to have a background check done on themselves kind of preemptively?
Yeah, we actually have. And the Fair Credit Reporting Act states it has to be a permissible purpose for a person to be doing a background check. So obviously, if someone's doing a background check on themselves, as long as we verify that it is that person, and we get written authorization following the FCRA guidelines. So we have done that because when you think about it, it's almost like credit. Back in the day, no one could really get an actual credit score. You could get your credit report and you had to
Yeah,
pay
but they'd
for
never
it.
give you the score. That's right. I
They
forgot about
never
that.
give you this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, when you go to get a loan or something like that, you don't really know what your score is. And I almost relate that to background checks. It's like, every company, over 96% of companies will do a background check. But how would you actually uh, do your own background check besides doing like a Google search or like you mentioned. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that people should be looking into doing.
Right. Does anybody ever come to you and ask you to do a background check as if you were a private investigator on another individual?
Well,
Or does
kind
that
of,
not
yeah,
really
yeah.
happen?
They like can everyone they hear we do background checks, like my friends. Some friends were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, can you check out my neighbor?" I'm like, "No, no,
Right.
no, no.
Yeah.
I do pre-employment. That I
Right.
was getting. My cold college friends were asking me, "Oh, Fred, I'm going on an interview. They're gonna do a background check, and I smoked a
Right.
little weed. What I could, I'm not a doctor, although I'll tell you what I know, and this is what happens in the pre-employment background check world. But I'm not a doctor. Um, and the other thing is, a lot of my conversations start out with, "I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not giving you legal advice. You should probably
Mm-hmm.
call Meg for this."
Yeah, there you go.
Although, yeah, call Meg. I do know this though, so that's kind of how I approach
Yeah.
some of those questions.
Do psychiatric records pop up?
No,
No.
no.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I'm
never.
surprised. And the reason I say that is because I know at least in New Jersey, if you want to get a firearm,
Mm,
they run a check. And if you
yeah,
have ever been in a psychiatric institution for any purpose, it will show up. I've
that's a
done work for clients that, have had, maybe gotten admitted years and years ago and wanted to now get a firearm, and you have to get that removed.
yeah, yeah.
And
That
after a period of time, I think it's right around the 7-year mark, those things stop
okay.
showing up. So I just didn't
Yeah,
know if
because
that was something that potential, or your clients rather, for their potential employees were ever looking into.
it. I guess not. The way I think about it, unless that, because I guess it would kind of be like discrimination. Just
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
they have some type of psychiatric issue, you wouldn't be able to discriminate because of that, unless
Well,
it
right,
led to
unless it
some
was a certain
violent
type
crime.
of, right. Well, yeah, and unless it was a type of job, like for some certain types of governmental work, I
Yeah,
guess might raise a red flag.
and
Um,
the thing with the Pre-Employment and the Fair Credit Reporting Act, when it comes to government jobs, there is a little bit of different rules, obviously. Well, law enforcement, I would say,
mhm,
someone in terms of pre-employment for law enforcement is a lot different than basic pre-employment.
mhm. Are there a lot of companies that do what you do, or
Um,
is there
there,
a competitive nature to the type of work that you do, or how does
it,
that work?
yeah, it actually, it kind of is. And over the past, I think I've seen an increase over the past 5 to 7 years or so, because I think the issue has become more popular and maybe people are thinking, they could get into it. Although there's a handful that have been in the business for a number of years, so we see a lot of them. They're in the business for a few years and then they drop off because it's a lot more involved than people really understand when you're doing a true, actual background check and a background check service. Um, and I don't think people really understand that how much there is involved with it. So
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people, people think they could put up a website and kind of do a database check and they're a background check company,
Yeah.
which is, totally untrue.
Are there different, in your experience, are there different industries? I'm not going to ask you to name potential, or name your clients specifically, but are there industries that are more discerning than others in terms of what they're going to let slide and what they aren't? I mean, I'm just
Let me
curious. Like,
give you
so,
a
and
list of
I'm
the,
thinking
the,
about it from the
the
perspective of,
clients.
I have people come in that want to move on with their life, want to clean up their record, want to get things expunged, or are concerned about pleading guilty to X crime versus Y crime because of obviously and understandably the impact that it might have on their future ability to get a job.
Yeah.
So are there certain, again, I won't ask you to name particular clients, but are there certain industries that you find are more discerning versus more lenient in terms of who they're going to hire? Or do you not even
Yes.
get involved in that? Do you just turn over the background and then that's the end of it? Do you know what happens to the
Yeah. Well,
employees rather?
and again, the FCRA is basically the Bible of the background check industry. So what
What's that stand for?
Fair Credit Reporting Act,
Got it.
and a lot of people think it only has to do with credit, although there is a lot of language in there that is credit, but it actually pertains to pre-employment screening. So it's
To include the
very
criminal background?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So in terms of like what we always, and part of the Fair Credit Reporting Act mentions that a business that is doing pre-employment background checks, you must have a hiring policy in place before you're doing background checks. So, you want to keep everything consistent. And the thing is, actually, there's no law that says you have to do background checks. People kind of forget that. You don't, if you're a business, you don't have to do a background check. But if you start, you have to keep it some kind of consistency in terms of your background check policy, so that whether it be it may, you know, maybe a different position, and a CFO, obviously you're going to do a little bit more intense background check, and maybe it's a one-time thing, and as opposed to maybe your salespeople. But you do want to keep it consistent, and You also, in terms of the hiring policy, you also want to signify what you're willing to hire for and not willing to hire for in terms of what crime it is. And the three criteria that they mentioned in the Fair Credit Reporting Act are the severity of the offense, how long ago it took place, and how directly it relates to the position or the work that the person will be doing. And I tell people, I say, a good example is, let's say you need a janitor that's going to be cleaning your office in the middle of the night, and I don't know, you do a background check and you see the janitor was convicted of aggravated assault maybe 5 years ago. Um, that may be okay, because number one, he's not even going to be around any other people. He's cleaning offices. He's in the middle of the night. It wasn't theft. He's not going to steal anything.
Mm-hmm.
Although, someone who's, going to be a manager or something like that, who's going to be leading people in front of people all day, all the time, that may be something you may want to address.
Right.
The other thing is they also mentioned you have to take an individualized assessment of the records and the person that you're taking a look at. So don't just overgeneralize as well.
Right. So if you turn over, I'll just call it a background report, to a client, an employer, do you find that sometimes a representative from that client will call you guys back for further clarification? Do you have that kind of back and forth relationship with the employer, your client, or not?
Yes, we do. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we provide that. We can't obviously give them advice, and that's a typical
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Should we hire them?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I could just tell you, oh, they were, tested positive on a drug
Mm-hmm.
test. What should we hire them? What do we do?
Mm-hmm.
I can't advise you on that. I'm not your HR director. I'm not your attorney.
Right.
So that does happen a lot.
Well,
We
I'm
can only
curious
guide them.
too. Do you get access to disclosures that the potential employee made? And if so, have you found whether or not it makes a difference if they, forgot and left something off versus
Well,
being upfront?
yeah, because you could, in a sense, the employer can deny employment because they lied.
Right.
I think that's the main.
Yeah,
the
that's
main
usually
thing.
more of, I always tell people that's usually more of a problem, is leaving something off.
Because who knows? Because an employer can think, well, how do I know they're not going to lie while they're working here
Right.
about something? It's not so much what happened. And I think
Mm-hmm.
in general, we're all, decent people, willing to give other people a chance. If you're upfront and honest and just describe your situation, at least you'll have an explanation on,
Mm-hmm.
what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the from my perspective as a criminal defense attorney, I think the lesson to be learned is that you want to follow up with, after having completed an expungement for a client. I always follow up either with my investigator or by doing another search, just to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
those items were removed. Because as we said, that can be problematic. And but from the credit reporting side, financial credit reporting
Mm-hmm.
side, do you what is the length of time that certain things show up? Like, will a bankruptcy show up forever, or are there certain things that show up that really can't ever be removed? Or I know there are a lot of other types of companies that help people rebuild their credit. Is that something that you can comment on, or does it really just depend?
Well, yes and
Mm-hmm.
no, and I say
Mm-hmm.
that only because our company started out as a credit reporting agency. So, um, technically we can. There are still, believe it or not, there are still some people who are here with our company that can advise on that, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
really what we do.
Got it.
It's we could point them in the right direction, but officially, no, we don't really advise on the credit help.
Got it. 35 years. That's how long data screening's been in business. Is that right?
Well, it's actually 25, but
Okay.
it's kind of overlapping. Like I said, the credit reporting agency, I guess, oh gosh, over, I would say around 35 years, maybe longer.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was some of our banking clients, the FDIC actually required banks to get their employees background checked.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, a lot of our banking clients started asking if we could do background checks. And so the company looked into that and did all the procedures, looked into some of the most advanced technology at that time, and started doing background checks. And that's kind of how that portion started. And
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the owners actually renamed it data screening. That was 25 years ago, and kind of pushed all the business over to data screening. And ironically, I think the credit reporting agency, was actually sold to another company.
Got it. But you still do the credit reporting,
Yeah,
nonetheless.
yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. I was checking out your website and
What do you think of the website?
checking you out on
I
LinkedIn.
designed the website, by the way.
Did you? I like it.
Yeah, I had a big hand in it. I wouldn't say designed it, but anyway.
It's very nice. I like it.
Thank you.
And datascreening.com for anybody who's
Yeah.
listening that wants to check it out. But WBENC certified. Tell me what that is. I had never heard that before. And I want to know just a little bit about it, and maybe have you or some other folks from your company come back on to talk about that in more detail.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. WeBank is a woman business organization. So to be a WeBank member, it has to be 51% or more owned by a female, which we are. And what's nice about it, it's a supply diversity type of organization. And a lot of WeBank owners will like to do business with other WeBank owners.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
so
fellas,
it's like a referral type of thing.
Sort of, but it's huge. And even some companies, like major companies, will actually section off part of their business to only be toward women-owned companies and part of WeBank. So we've gotten a lot of really good clients, and more importantly, developed a lot of awesome relationships from it.
Mm-hmm.
I unfortunately can't speak much more about it other than that.
Yeah, I'm interested. I mean, as a having a woman-owned business, right? I'm interested to learn more about that.
I've probably sold more, I would say, pushed more about the organization whenever I'm speaking to or find out it's a woman-owned business. That's the one thing I bring up right away, just because the benefits and the success we got out of it. It's a really great organization.
And I'm sure you could put me in touch with someone that could come back
on
the show maybe and talk more about that from the perspective of, hey, I'm a woman. I have a woman-owned business. Why should I guess it's WeBank you referred to it, WENC,
yes.
WeBank. Why should I seek that type of certification? What would it how would it benefit me?
Yeah, I have a complete write-up on that I could send you. And then also our president, Kimberly, she actually, I apologize if I get this wrong. There's a program they have, it's a TUC program. Mm-hmm. And she went through a training course. I forget how long it took, but she graduated. So they have a lot of unbelievable programs, and it's really great organization.
Oh, I'd love to invite her to come on the show and talk to me about that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get in touch with her, and I'll have her reach out to you.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Our good mutual friend Tom kind of hooked us up and connected us, and I think it's really interesting to see the overlap. Me as a criminal defense attorney, and how background checks are important to how I advise my clients, both on the front end before making any decisions with regard to any pending criminal charges in New Jersey, and then oftentimes on the back end when they're coming to me and saying, hey, look, here's my history, or this is what I think my history is. I want to be able to move forward with my life, to get a job and improve myself, and how can I go about getting things expunged? So it's kind of a neat perspective to have spoken to you and kind of see that the other side of the employer and where the employer is drawing their information from. So I can't thank you enough for joining me here on a Friday and a beautiful day in
Thank you.
October. And hopefully we can meet up in person someday. And I look forward to meeting.
For more information about criminal defense in New Jersey, go to hornerlaw.com. That's HOERNER law.com.